the CEO's son shouted, "Do my work. This company is finished anyway." And those words bounced off the glass walls of the executive conference room in downtown Seattle like cheap plastic. I stayed silent, staring down at my lukewarm cup of burnt drip coffee, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks while Julian Vance Jr. threw his luxury designer pen across my mahogany desk. Weeks later, during a $70 million product demonstration in a packed auditorium in Austin, Texas, every screen went black, and the CTO quietly turned to the CEO and whispered something that changed everything. My mind kept returning to that exact moment in Seattle, to the way Julian Jr. sneered at me as if I were just another piece of office furniture he could kick on his way out. I didn't say a word back to him that afternoon. I couldn't. Not because I was weak, but because I had spent 3 years cleaning up the disastrous code he kept writing while riding his father's coattails, and I knew something he didn't. I knew this company wasn't finished because of market conditions or bad luck. It was bleeding out from the inside, and I was the only one holding the tourniquet. My mind drifted back to late nights in my suburban apartment in Bellevue, staring at the cold blue glow of my laptop screen while the rest of the world slept. The silence of 3 in the morning always felt heavy, punctuated only by the hum of the refrigerator when I got up to pour myself another glass of tap water. I remembered the exhaustion settling deep into my bones, my fingers flying across the mechanical keyboard, rewriting Julian's entire back-end architecture so the flagship software wouldn't collapse on launch day. Arthur Vance, the CEO and a man who built Vance Tech from a garage startup into a Silicon Northwest giant, never looked at me twice in the hallways. To him, I was just Clara, a senior systems analyst with messy dark hair tied back in a hurried clip, someone who blended into the gray cubicles. He only had eyes for his 26-year-old son. A trust fund prince handed the title of vice president of product development before he even knew how to write a clean loop in Python. "You're cleaning up his mess again, Clara," my best friend Marcus had told me over a greasy diner booth late one Tuesday night, nursing a mug of decaf. "Why don't you just let it burn? Let Julian crash the ship. You've got enough saved up to walk away." I remembered looking down at the scarred Formica table, tracing the ring left behind by a coffee cup. "Because I built the soul of that core engine, Marcus. It's my name on the architecture, even if Arthur put his son's name on the patent." And now here we were in Austin. The Austin Convention Center was buzzing with venture capitalists, tech journalists from TechCrunch and Wired, and global partners holding checkbooks ready to write massive figures. The air smelled of expensive cologne, catered mini quiches, and corporate anxiety. On the massive stage, Arthur Vance stood tall, his silver hair neatly styled, flashing that charismatic billionaire smile that had charmed Wall Street for decades. Julian Jr. stood just off stage, wearing a tailored Italian suit that cost more than my first car, scrolling lazily on his smartphone as if he were waiting in line for an artisanal latte in Soho. I stood in the wings, my palms slightly damp, clutching my tablet. I remembered my own little league days back in Ohio, sitting on the dusty wooden bench watching my father coach from the sidelines, teaching me that discipline always outlasts arrogance. That memory felt a lifetime away. Arthur's voice boomed through the state-of-the-art sound system, echoing over the applause. "Today, ladies and gentlemen, Vance Tech introduces the next evolution in cloud security, Titanium Zero." A murmur of genuine excitement rippled through the auditorium. On the massive LED displays above the stage, the sleek, futuristic interface of Titanium Zero shimmered to life, showcasing real-time threat detection and unbreakable data encryption. The investors leaned forward. The journalists raced their cameras. Flashbulbs popped like distant lightning storms. Then it happened. Without warning, every single screen across the entire auditorium flickered violently, turned pitch black, and then flashed a single line of bright red text against the darkness. "Access denied. System reverted to original architect." A collective gasp sucked the air right out of the room. Arthur froze mid-sentence, his smile locking awkwardly onto his face like a cracked porcelain mask. The murmurs erupted into outright panic. Investors started whispering frantically among themselves, checking their phones for emergency alerts. Julian Jr. dropped his phone, the screen shattering against the concrete floor with a sharp crack that nobody heard over the rising tide of confusion. I didn't panic. My heart didn't even race. I simply stood there in the shadows, feeling a strange, cold peace wash over me. Dr. Eris Thorne, the brilliant, reclusive CTO of Vance Tech, a man who rarely spoke unless code was involved, slowly turned his head away from the dead master console. He didn't look at Arthur. He didn't look at the panicked crowd. He turned his gaze toward the dark wings of the stage where I was standing, his eyes locking onto mine with a solemn, knowing nod. Then he stepped closer to Arthur Vance, leaned in and whispered the words that changed everything. "She locked us out, Arthur. Clara owns the master keys. If we want this company to survive the next 5 minutes, you're going to have to walk over there, look her in the eye and ask her to save us." Arthur's head snapped around, his eyes wide with sheer disbelief, searching the shadows until they landed directly on me. I didn't shrink away. I straightened my shoulders, lifting my chin just a fraction, feeling the quiet strength of every late night, every unappreciated line of code, and every arrogant dismissal rise up inside me. The CEO of a $70 million empire began walking toward me across the stage, his steps heavy and hesitant, while the rest of the world waited in the dark. A strange, liberating warmth spread through my chest, chasing away the ghosts of every past doubt. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the absolute beginning. If Clara's quiet strength and ultimate triumph resonated with your heart tonight, please take a quick moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support truly means the world and helps us bring more emotional stories to life. Thank you so much for watching and sweet dreams.